ויבן עוזיהו מגדלים בירושלים, ויחזקאל, ויחזקאל. ויבן עוזיהו מגדלים בירושלים, ויחזקאל, ויחזקאל. ויבן מגדלים במדבר, ויחצור בורות רבים, ויחצור בורות.
Shalom and welcome to Counting the Cost, a linguistic analysis of Hebrew numbers. Today we will look at the idea of first, which is related to headship. The word first in Hebrew is very different from the word one, which we have discussed in a previous lesson. This is very common in many languages. You see it in English. The word one is not linguistically related to the word first, and that idea is true in many languages. First and one are different ideas. The word first in Hebrew is Rishon, Strong's number 7223, and it carries with it not only the idea of first, but things from earlier times, former things, and also the most important things. Genesis 8:13. And it came to pass in the 601st year, in the first month, the first day of the month, the waters were dried up from off the earth, and Noah removed the covering of the ark, and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry. So this is the first month. In Noah's time, it was in Tishrei, the 7th month, and later we see that Yahweh gives to Moses that the first month of the year will be in Nisan, which is the month we celebrate Passover. That's going to become important as we go on in the lesson. Genesis 25:25, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau, one of twins, and he was the one that came out in time. He was the first. Genesis 28:19, and he called the name of that place Bethel or Beit El, but the name of that city was called Luz at the first. In other words, in former times, in earlier times. Genesis 40:13, yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thine head, and restore thee unto thy place, and thou shalt deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand, after the former manner when thou wast his butler. This what happened at the Rishon, at the beginning, at the former time. Leviticus 26:45, and I will for their sakes remember the covenant of their ancestors, whom I brought forth out of the land of Egypt in the sight of the heathen, that I might be their God. I am Yahweh. So Rishonim, the idea of the people that lived first, they lived earlier, they are our ancestors. Deuteronomy 4:32, for ask now of the days that are past, which were before thee, since the day that God created man upon the earth, and ask from the one side of heaven unto the other, whether there hath been any such thing as this great thing is, or hath been heard like it. The times past, the times that were at the beginning, the first times. Genesis 33:2, and he put the handmaids and their children foremost, and Leah and her children after, and Rachel and Joseph hindermost. Jacob is lining up his family. The ones that he puts in front are maybe they become the most vulnerable. He doesn't know if Esau's going to attack them or not, so he puts his most beloved family at the end of this parade of people going to meet Esau. 2 Samuel 18:27, and the watchman said, methinketh the running of the foremost is like the running of Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok. And the king said, he is a good man, he cometh with good tidings. So he is the one that is in front, physically, of the runners that are coming to bring the news. Ezra 9:2, for they have taken of their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy seed have mingled themselves with the people of those lands. Yea, the hand of the princes and rulers hath been chief in this trespass. They have been the foremost of the sinners. They have been the principal, the main sinners in taking themselves foreign wives. Proverbs 18:17, he that is first in his own cause seemeth just, but his neighbor cometh and searcheth him. So in the beginning of the dispute, the person who comes to support his own cause, he is the first one and he seems to be right. But we still need to investigate every situation. The word Rishon comes from the word Rosh, which means head or top, chief or beginning. Genesis 2:10, and a river went out from Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted and became into 4 heads. The river started in one place, but it split out into 4 different rivers. We talk about the head of a river. It's the beginning of the river. Genesis 3:15, and I'll put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed, and it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. The head is a very important part of the body. The body can't work without the head. In this prophecy, we see that eventually Messiah shall bruise the head of the serpent, and it will no longer live. Genesis 11:4, and they said, Go to, let us build a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. They're going to the top, just as the head is at the top of the body. They're trying to go to the top of heaven. Exodus 12:2, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. So as we said before, Yahweh changed the first month of the year for Moses to what is called Nisan, the month of Passover. 1 Chronicles 12:19, and there fell some of Manasseh to David when he came with the Philistines against Saul to battle. But they helped them not, for the lords of the Philistines upon advisement sent him away, saying, He will fall to his master Saul, to the jeopardy of our heads. They are worrying about David's hiding with the Philistines. He's fighting with the Philistines, but they're concerned that he will go back to Saul's side, and they are worried about their heads, in other words, their lives. Numbers 31:26, take the sum of the prey that was taken, both of man and of beast, thou and Eleazar the priest, and the chief fathers of the congregation. Very often when we talk about taking a census, we use the same phrase in English. It is counting heads. The chief fathers, they are the most important of the elders in the congregation. Numbers 5:7, then they shall confess their sin which they have done, and he shall recompense his trespass with the principal thereof, and add unto it the 5th part thereof, and give it unto him against whom he hath trespassed. The principal part, the most important part, the main part, in order to recompense thievery or accidental death, we have to pay back an additional 20%, an additional 5th, in addition to the principal part, the main part. Job 22:12, is not God in the height of heaven? And behold the height of the stars, how high they are. Again, the head, it's the top thing, it's the uppermost thing. This word rosh also has another meaning of gall or venom or poison. And this comes from the idea both in a snake and in a flower that the poisonous part is in the head. The venom for a snake is carried in a sack somewhere near behind his brain. I'm not that familiar with it, but I have seen a herpetologist milk the poison out of the snake, and they get the snake to open his mouth and they press behind his head, and the venom will come out through the teeth. From that sac, it can be expelled. It's a poisonous part of the snake. If you think of a flower like the poppies, The seeds, it's in the head of the flower where the poison is. Deuteronomy 29:17, lest there should be among you man or woman or family or tribe whose heart turneth away this day from Yahweh our God to go and serve the gods of these nations, lest there should be among you a root that beareth gall and wormwood. This is the word rosh, gall. So there's a root in the ground. When it comes up and it makes a flower, that flower is poison. Job 20:16, he shall suck the poison of asps, the viper's tongue shall slay him. Jeremiah 8:14, why do we sit still? Assemble yourselves, and let us enter into the defenced cities, and let us be silent there. For Yahweh our God hath put us to silence, and hath given us water of gall to drink, because we have sinned against Yahweh. Hosea 10:4, they have spoken words, swearing falsely and making a covenant. Thus judgment springeth up as hemlock in the furrows of the field. So in this particular case, I don't know why they chose to plant hemlock, but we all know that hemlock is poison unto death. Another word related to rosh is reshit, and this is a word you already know from Bereshit, from the beginning. It means the first thing, or even the strongest or best part. In Genesis 1:1, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. In another place, we have talked about whether this is in the beginning or in a beginning. Genesis 49:3. Reuben, thou art my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity and the excellency of power. Reuben was a firstborn child. Exodus 34:26. The first of the first fruits of thy land thou shalt bring into the house of Yahweh thy God. Thou shalt not seethe a kid in his mother's milk. Sometimes we see the word reshit actually translated as first fruits. Let's go ahead and read the next verse where it is. Deuteronomy 18:4, the first fruit also of thy corn, of thy wine, and of thine oil, and the first of the fleece of thy sheep shalt thou give him. So reshit is sometimes translated as first fruit, but in the Exodus verse, we see that the word first fruit is a different word, and that is bikurim. And we have talked about the difference between these two things in the Inside the Times and Seasons series. We talked about bikurim being different from omer reshit. The first fruits is different from the counting of the omer, the first omer.
ויבנו צייר ומגדלים בירושלים, ויחזקם, ויבן מגדלים במדבר, ויחצור בורות רבים,